We're going to start working on architectural drawings. And today we're going to start with the drawing on 4.3. However, we're going to modify it to the drawing on page 428. Additionally, we're going to add some doors. We're also going to add to this drawing a front facade, and we'll even put some bushes out back. We're going to show you how to print out multiple layouts on the layout pages and even show different layer controls. So let's start by doing the following. Go to File, choose New, and then we're going to use the wizard. Now in the wizard, choose the Advanced Setup, hit OK, choose the architectural settings, set the precision to 0 feet 0 inches, and go ahead and click through Next until you get to Area. Now in the area, you see here in the example, enter the area you want to represent using full-scale units. Example, to draw an area 12 by 9 meters, enter 12 under the width and 9 under the length. Well, here's something about this area setting. In all honesty, I have no idea what it actually changes, because if you noticed in AutoCAD, you can go ahead and look at a screen at whatever size. So I'm going to actually set it up to what our page size is. We're going to actually do a page size for a D-size drawing. A D-size drawing is 34 by 22. So we're going to type in 34 here, and for the length we're going to type 22. And we're not even going to bother. We're not even going to bother with units at all. So once we do that, we're just going to click Finish. Now, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my grid, and you should as well. And you probably see a grid something like this. Now, if you remember, the way AutoCAD works is typically once you start using AutoCAD, it sort of saves your standard settings. So when you open it up again, you see these toolbars after using saving AutoCAD once or twice. And the grid is left over from the grid we've used previously. And the zoom is also left over from what we've used previously. So let's take a look at our settings for a minute here. So if I go into Tools and our drafting settings, when I look at my grid spacings are a 1/2 inch in the X and a 1/2 inch in the Y, with major lines every 5 inches. Or sorry, every 5 grid lines. So each block here represents 2.5 inches. If you look at the drawing here, we're going to make a floor plan which is 30 feet by 30 feet. So this grid is absolutely ridiculous. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to type in 1 foot here and 1 foot there. Now let's turn on our snap for our polar. Make sure it's on polar snap. Polar tracking should be on. Object snap should be on. Object snap tracking should be on. And dynamic input, this should be off, but by now, as a standard, it should be off in all cases. Now, take a look at what happens. When I hit OK, all of a sudden you can't see the grid. Now, the reason you can't see the grid is because the grid is so large. So what you need to do is you need to start contracting the size of the screen until you can actually go and see the grid. And if you remember, we made the grid lines a foot. So each block here is 5 feet. So right now, I've set this up so we're about, if we let's say go from here, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Oops, excuse me. So let's set it up something like this to start. This is going to give me enough room to actually start drawing. Now I'm going to start about, I'm going to want my corner of my house right about here. And I'm going to start with the opening to the left of what is essentially the front door, looking from the front, as in looking from the bottom of your book page. Now, if you read through what the book is doing, the book uses something called multi-line. We don't teach you multi-line. What we found as instructors is that for beginning AutoCAD students, multi-line is too complex. And the reason it gets complex is because when you go to connect sections together, it becomes difficult to determine whether to connect them in the center or on the ends. And it turns out getting students to understand that and getting students to connect them properly actually takes more time than doing it the old-fashioned way, which is just by drawing lines. So we teach you by drawing lines. If you become an architectural student, then you may find that multi-line works better for you, or you may find that you end up that you're good at just doing it by drawing lines, in which case you can do it by drawing lines forever. In all cases, whatever works better for you is what you should use. So before we start, let's create some layers. So we're going to go into our, open our layer box. Again, we come up here, click on layers, and let's add 5 layers. And we're going to name our layers walls, windows, doors, landscape, and title. So the title we're going to make black. The landscape we'll make green. The walls we'll make cyan. The windows red. And the doors magenta. All lines can be continuous here. We can close that out. Okay, so we're going to start with a line. And we're going to start right about here somewhere, roughly 15 feet or so over from the end. And we're just going to start with a horizontal line. Make sure that we're in our wall layer. Start with a horizontal line going to the left. And then we may need to make this line 11 feet 6 inches. So you're going to type 11. I need to make it actually go horizontal. 11 and then the foot mark, followed by 6 and the inch mark. Now you do not need to leave a space between them. You have to use a separate foot and an inch mark. You cannot use a single quote twice to make an inch mark. AutoCAD won't recognize that. You could use or put only the dimension in inches. So if we multiply the 11 feet by 12, that's actually a pretty complex number, whatever it is, 131 or something like that, 132 plus 6, whatever that number is. You could type that number in inches. If you only type a single number without any designation, it's going to put it in inches, so please remember that. You may see me do a mistake. I often do this, sometimes even intentionally, just to show you. But that's that. If you don't put any kind of mark, it will be a dimension in inches. So please remember that. Okay, so there's our first line. I'm going to make a vertical line, and this vertical line is going to be 25 feet 6 inches. A horizontal line to the right. Now this will go only over to the door opening. We don't want to make it all the way across. So we're going to make this one 25 feet 11 inches. we add up the 10 feet plus the 15 feet 11 inches. So 25 feet 11 inches. And at that point we can stop. Now we need to continue a line on 3 feet from this point. So what we're going to do, let's blow this up a little bit. And let's choose our line. And we're going to start from this point. So we take a tracking line from there. Don't hit the mouse button. Move our tracking line over. Type 3. And I'm going to do this wrong just to show you. If I just type 3 and hit enter, I only moved over 3 inches. You have to type foot mark. So I type 3 and the foot mark, and now I move over 3 feet. So now I'm starting on the other side of the door. So now I need to move over 1 foot 1 inches, which I can just type as 13. In this case, I don't need an inch mark. Just going to pan there. Now I'm going down. I have a length of 30 feet. We're going to move over by 14 feet. Nine inches. And I'm going to skip that little bump out for now. This next dimension will be 11 feet. And then we're going to move over another 13 inches. And hit escape. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to expand this to put an inside wall. Now, typically for 2x4 construction, in architectural drawings, wall thickness will be 5 inches. A 2x4 is actually 3 1/4 inches, if I remember correctly. And then by the time you put sheetrock on the inside and plywood and your finishing on the outside, you're going to end up with a 5-inch wall. Now, in order to do an expansion, the first thing we need to do is we need to join all these pieces. So we need to use join, which we haven't used in a while, so let's go back and talk about how we do that. So the first thing we do, we go to our modify, and we choose this. We choose edit polyline. We select the polyline, select any line. They'll say, do we want to turn it into a polyline? We type yes, hit enter. We select join. Now we select the objects. So we select, 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 and then hit enter. That completes it. Now you might have the idea that I should click on close and that will then close this box. That's not correct. If you click on close, what you will do is you will connect the line from here to there and you'll close off this box. So you don't want to do that. What you do is just click escape and that exits the polyline. When I come over here, I click this, I see that this is now one single polyline. Once it's a polyline, you can come up here, click expand, offset. I think I said expand previously. It is called offset, not expand. So we click offset, come down here, we have to set the distance, which is 5 inches. We can just type 5, no inches. Designation is necessary. Click on the line, make sure we move it to the inside, and hit enter. Now we need to do the same thing for this piece. So we come over here, modify, click on polyline, click on any one of the lines, type yes, enter, join, select the lines, hit enter, escape. We're done with the polyline. We can check it. It's complete. We hit offset. We're already set for 5 inches. You just come down and hit enter. Click on the polyline, move it to the inside, hit enter. Okay, so once we've done that, let's just close off the ends. So just blow this up a little bit. Click, click, escape. Click, click. Now, you see that right there? I made that a little too long. So you have to be careful about that so you don't stretch the line too long. Come down to these. Okay, now we have this little bump out that we have to put in. And this is essentially how we're going to put all the extra walls in. You basically just have to add them. So what we know is we have a 3-foot gap. So what we can do is we can start over here, bring a tracking line over, type 3 feet. That'll start the line once we hit enter. Complete the line. Then go to this side of it, move up 5 inches, and then move over to complete it. After we do that, we use trim, select these 2 ends, hit enter, and then we can remove the centerpiece. So that completes our outside walls. Next thing we have to do is our inside walls. Now, before you make and put in the inside walls, please check your dimensions. Use your ruler. The reason I want to do this is because any mistakes that you have made will likely cause you to have to completely redraw what you've already put in. So if you have made a mistake to this point, you want to catch it here before you have to continue on. If you get to the end and you find out a couple of your walls are too long, too short, you may end up having to go back to start over. So it's definitely worth checking your dimensions early. All right, now that says 30.2, but let's make sure that we're at the top when we started. We start. And yes, when you have large drawing, no, and you have to zoom quite a bit sometimes to make sure that when you're checking your dimensions, you get them proper. All right, so we can see that dimension is actually correct. And then finally, we should check this dimension. And again, you can see somewhere, you can see I went a little bit long there. 14.9. Okay, so that all looks good. All right, so I'm going to stop this video here, and then I'll start up the next video with the interior walls.